Palmer. Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Holding down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Friday. Working towards the weekend. Hope your week has been a good one and that there's not much left on your plate until we knock off for the final LSU football free weekend until Halloween. We're all just about ready. Just got one more weekend to go, and we're pumped to be with you for the next 2 hours. Preston Guy going to join us at 1:15, as he will every single Friday during the football season. He writes for TigerBait.com, and we'll talk some Tigers with Preston at 1:15. ACC expansion talk is something we'll get into. In the second hour, we're going to have back-to-back segments previewing SEC West teams. Michael Katz will come on to talk about Ole Miss at 2 o'clock. Andrew Hutcherson from up there in Northwest Arkansas will talk Razorbacks with us at 2:15. The Athletic has a story up about tiers of coaches in college football. Where does Brian Kelly fall in that? Plenty to get to. And I got to be real honest, we're probably not going to talk a lot about Notre Dame and Navy or Vanderbilt and Hawaii. I'm going to give you a pick on Vanderbilt, Hawaii, because there's a point spread and there's an SEC team and that's involved. And we're going to track my progress throughout the year like we did last year. I had such a strong start last year and then just fell apart, finished just under 500. But I'm going to start with that eventually in this show and give you my one pick on that game. But we are going to start today with Saints and Texans. Kickoff in the Caesars Superdome Sunday night, 7 o'clock on Fox and national telecast. Final tune-up for the New Orleans Saints before they cut the roster down to 53 and then move into the regular season. The Saints were on the practice field yesterday, and Dennis Allen had a number of things to say, and we'll get to kind of some thoughts on what to expect from the game and some of my thoughts on the game. But first, I want to talk about a couple of guys who are considered starters on this team that have been banged up, have missed some practice time, weren't going to play in the preseason game anyway, but there's an update on their health status. So the first one, Dennis Allen talked about Rashid Shaheed.
Yeah, we got him out here today. Went through a little bit of individual. I expect him to be out there a little bit tomorrow in terms of the dome, getting used to the lights and everything. I don't know that we'll see him in any real live action or anything like that, but he's certainly getting closer to being back.
Doesn't sound like any of the Saints starters really are going to be out there very much, if at all, in this game. That's the way Dennis Allen has chosen to play this thing with his starters. They went out there for a series against the Chiefs, got their feet wet, got some good work against LA in those joint practices, and that's really going to be just about it as far as the starters go. So Shaheed out there going to do a little bit of work through practice, and once you finish things up on Sunday, you've got 2 weeks to get ready for the season opener, and Shaheed expected to very much be ready for that. On the defensive side and on the outside as well, not as much an update on Marshawn Lattimore.
No update. There's nothing structurally wrong with his knee. It's really more or less us getting him on a little medication to help hopefully calm this thing down. Again, it's not a significant injury, but it's one that you got to kind of battle through a little bit.
Such a great start to camp by Marshawn Lattimore. By all accounts, he was the star early in camp. And there were some storylines, of course, Derek Carr integrating himself into things for the first time in a training camp. And Jimmy Graham coming back. And what does Mike Thomas look like? And is Trevor Penning ready to roll? And you had your storylines. You changed the entire interior of the defensive front. But in terms of standout performers early on in training camp, Marshawn Lattimore was the guy, and obviously having to miss some time right now, that's no fun, but hopefully it's a deal where they can get him rested. He doesn't need a ton of reps in camp. Would love to get him some reps in the next couple of weeks, and then you send him out there for the opener. So that's the injury update on a couple of guys that you're expecting to see. One of the hot topics that we've talked about in preseason games, like the games they play. This has nothing to do with Derek Carr or Michael Thomas, has nothing to do with Alvin Kamara. We know what those guys are. They're not really playing in these games. But one of the things that you want to watch in these games is some of the guys who are reserves that you expect to contribute to the Saints every Sunday. And one of those guys is Peyton Turner. And we know that last week he had a really impressive inside move, showed some quickness, showed some burst, got the sack, got the fumble, And it's against the second-team line, against the second-team quarterback, and we know all the caveats, but this is a guy they invested in heavily, hasn't been a big piece to things, but every year at this time, you hear, oh, he flashes, he's doing this and that. Well, the question is, are we really going to see some production from Peyton Turner? And Dennis Allen kind of spoke to that.
Here's the thing with the player, all right? He missed a lot of time due to injury. This was really the first offseason that he's had where he's been able to participate fully in everything that we're doing, both from a physical standpoint and from a mental standpoint, and I think you're seeing some of the fruits of that labor. It's hard on a young guy when a young guy misses a lot of time. He's got a lot of catching up to do, and I think he's had a really good camp. I like where he's at, and I think he'll be a player that we're going to be able to count on this season.
Carl Granderson's the starter. We know that. But Peyton Turner's upside is greater than Carl Granderson's. His size and strength and quickness and just general athleticism is greater. Therefore, his ceiling as a player is greater. I don't think you're at some massive disadvantage on the defensive front if you've got Carl Granderson in there for 70% of your snaps. But I think you're a better team if Peyton Turner incrementally chips into those snaps. And it could be situational, it could be for a rest, or it could be just based on performance. But that's a guy that I will certainly be watching on Sunday, Peyton Turner, and see if he can replicate some of the things that we've seen in short sample sizes, especially in the preseason, because that's a guy who could make the Saints better. And we're seeing some signs of that in training camp. So that's a guy that I'm certainly going to be watching. I'm going to be watching Jameis Winston as well. I thought he was pretty average last weekend, and that's what you would generally expect from Jameis. I think anyone who carried some sort of hopeful optimism, if that's not redundant, last year saying, oh, this guy threw for 30 touchdowns, threw for 5,000 yards. This guy, it could be, he could have figured it out after a couple of years behind Breeze. Nobody's on that train anymore. Obviously, the Saints aren't. They brought in a starting quarterback. The rest of the league's not. They're not banging down the door to sign Jameis Winston a free agent contract. So you recalibrate your expectations for Jameis Winston. And my expectation for Jameis Winston is to be a good backup quarterback. He can be that. He hasn't turned the ball over via the interception in the first couple of games. I mean, he was 13 of 21 for 169 yards last week against the second-team defense. Is that great? No, it's not. So hopefully, assuming he gets to start, which is the assumption, he'll play a little bit better in this game, and then you'll see Jay Kaner, and I think they're high on him. And especially, Jay Kaner's kind of playing for his roster spot with the Saints. The Saints want to keep him, but he's playing so that they have to keep him on the 53 and don't risk waivers on the practice squad. I think he's already there, but certainly a good performance on Sunday would cement that. The question is, what can the defense draw from this game? And the Texans have said they're going to start C.J. Stroud in this game. He's their starting quarterback for the year, and he's going to get some reps in this game. So the question was asked to Dennis Allen, does seeing the starting quarterback kind of give you a little help?
Yeah, I think some of that will be beneficial just in terms of, being able to watch the player and how he operates. How does he see the defense? How does he see coverages? Some of that, I think, can be beneficial for us, knowing that we're going to play those guys in the regular season. Again, like most preseason games, there's not a ton of game planning that goes into it. We're not necessarily trying to attack Houston's offense or attack Houston's defense. There's a few obviously we look at the tape and we'll make a few little adjustments and tweaks to what we do, but a lot of it will be base stuff.
I think the fact that C.J. Stroud's playing doesn't really mean anything to the Saints. I think it is a little more interesting for the viewer, quite frankly. If you're just starving for football and Navy Notre Dame's not getting it for you and you're black and gold diehard and you want to watch the Saints and you realize that a lot of the guys you're watching are potentially going to get cut in 48 hours, maybe seeing C.J. Stroud out there playing out of just curiosity is a more interesting watch than seeing a backup or third-team guy or fourth-team guy that's going to get cut. So, again, for the Saints, on Sunday. I'm going to watch Penning. I'm going to watch Jameis. There's some linebacker and secondary stuff that's interesting. Maybe the 4, 5, 6 receiver range is interesting. You just don't know how long they're going to leave guys out there. So I hesitate to be authoritative on takes on this game, giving you bold predictions. I think we're a little past that. This is a point where the Saints are trying to find the last 5, 6 guys on the roster and trying to stay healthy. That's basically it at this point. So I fully support those of you diehard black and gold sickos that want to check out 45 through 53 on the roster. I'd be right there with you with LSU's baseball team in the fall if that was the case. But I think for me, watching a little CJ Stroud, see how Penning looks, make sure Jameis is fine, stay healthy, and finish up preseason and get ready to go for week 1. I think that's kind of where I am, and I think that's probably where the majority of you are. But it is a national Fox broadcast. They'll have the A-team on Sunday night from the Dome, so should be fun to watch for a little bit, and depending on how invested you are, probably how long you leave that TV on Sunday night. All right, let's turn the page to LSU football with Preston Guy. Our Friday show is brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp. Get on by Corks for a late lunch today. Government between Foster and Jefferson. From the folks that brought you Kuyon's Barbecue across the river. It is a new food concept here in Baton Rouge, and it is good stuff over there at Corks. So get on by for lunch or dinner, drive through or dine in their newly renovated dining room. It is delicious jumbo Gulf shrimp. It is crispy fried catfish, the shoestring fries, honey butter rolls, baked potato with the crawfish etouffee. It's all real good over there at Corks. Preston Guy's next on Palmer Show.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
LWCC is Louisiana loyal. As we tell you every day, they are elevating and celebrating champions of Louisiana. What's a champion of Louisiana? Champion of Louisiana is someone who takes pride in being from this state and does their best, his or her best, to be a benefit here to the state and to elevate our state. Corey Barr certainly qualifies. Corey Barr is a chef born in Monroe, Louisiana, raised in Monroe, Louisiana, grew to national acclaim. Food Network, beat Bobby Flay, next Food Network star. Even with that national acclaim, he doesn't go to San Francisco. He doesn't go to New York. He comes right back to Monroe. That's home. Operates 3 businesses right there in the 318. If you know of a champion like Corey Barr, whether it's a person, nonprofit, or a business that's doing great philanthropic work, LWCC wants to know about it so that they can tell that story. Corey Barr is a champion of Louisiana. LWCC is Louisiana loyal.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $12,000 off MSRP on new 23 Ram 1500 trucks, all with Bayou's 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
a taco more than just a taco when it's Government Taco? Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving.
Voisin, inviting you to join me, Coach Todd Black and Coach Jimmy Roy, as we kick off the 2023 Prep football season with a Jamboree edition of Louisiana Prep Scoreboard presented by Lake Urgent Care. Friday night from 10 to midnight, right here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Friday show is brought to you by Corks. Hunt Palmer Show, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge every Friday at 1:15. We'll head out to the Jim's Firearm Hotline and chat with our guy Preston Guy from Tiger Bait. That's what we do right now. Preston, how are you, sir?
Doing good, hon. What's going on?
Not a ton. What percentage of the snaps of Vandy, Hawaii can I pencil you in for tomorrow?
Let's see, about 20%. Maybe.
20%. How about Navy, Notre Dame?
Oh, we'll bump that one up to 40.
I mean, that's in the morning, isn't it? It's in Ireland. I haven't checked kickoff time, but I'm assuming it's fairly early, right?
Yeah, well, let's put it like this. I might have to negotiate with my wife for some snaps. This is the last Saturday I'll be free for a while, so she's probably going to claim some of my time.
I know how that goes. And look, my wife's got a bachelorette party this weekend, so I'm going to Shreveport to play golf and hand my child to my mother and say, "Hey, watch him for 48 hours." So we're good. Man. This is a dream weekend for me. So we're looking forward to next weekend. Let's go back actually to last weekend first. Any big takeaways from the scrimmage? Whether it was players playing different positions or a guy that stood out. What'd you think?
Well, let's go broad picture here because the biggest takeaway was how much better the defense played when it went out there as a unit. You know, we've been seeing the Jaden Daniels and Nussmeier and all those receivers just absolutely cook the DBs in practice for the 7-on-7s and 1v1 drills. Not that the DBs look bad, it's just they were making a lot of good catches and a lot of good throws. They were contested, and it's hard to stop perfect throws and perfect catches. Once the defense got to play as a unit with their defensive line and those pads strapped on, they improved quite a bit. You know, we saw a humble stat line for Jaden Daniels. Not bad, but he was 6 for 11 with 59 yards. He did have a touchdown to Noah Kane, and, you know, he kind of regressed back to that, you know, the check downs that he likes to do, you know, with his nice, safe, easy passes. And when he got more aggressive, those passes were contested or dropped. So, you know, defense was markedly improved on that day. And then my second observation was what I just touched on, Jaden Daniels. Whereas most of fall camp and in spring, he was really pushing the ball downfield. In the scrimmage portion with the defensive line coming after him, he did revert back to the more conservative approach, which if he wants to take the next step, DraftKings actually has him as the second best Heisman odds in the country today. If he wants to live up to that, he's going to have to push the ball downfield.
News of the week, obviously Mason Smith will miss the first game. How big a deal is that?
It's pretty big, but it's softened by Jacobian Guillory is more than capable. He looked very good in the scrimmage on Saturday, and they've been practicing without him for a little bit because he's got that ankle injury. So it definitely hurts, but you've got the depth. And then, of course, behind Jacoby and Guillory, you've got the very talented Jordan Jefferson out of West Virginia. So I think you'll be okay. But, I mean, in a game that's going to, come down to a couple inches or a field goal kick, maybe a goal line stand, you'd really like to have a huge hog molly like Mason Smith on the goal line.
I want to ask you about the tight ends. We know that Mason Taylor's going to start and have a monster year. That was evident in the scrimmage we watched on Saturday. But how much can the freshman play early, late? Is there a progression? And who do you like as far as the freshman tight ends go?
Yeah, probably the first tight end behind Mason Taylor is going to be Kamorian Pimpton, who is an incredibly talented player out of Dallas. He is very polished as an athlete, as a receiver. Where he's really surprised coaches is his ability to block. He was not known as a blocking prospect out of high school, but he's 6'6", 245. And with that body, he's able to use it. Now, Mac Markway is probably more developed as a blocker at this point. I mean, he's more stout, 6'4", 250, but I do believe that Kamorian Pimpton's playmaking ability probably gets him the first nod. Those two guys will probably both play a decent amount. We know Brian Kelly likes to use his tight ends, and last year he was greatly hindered by only having one guy who was available, or one guy that he could trust, I should say.
Do you count on them to play a lot in September, or is it more of as October, November as the season goes on?
For the two tight ends? Oh, no,
yeah.
I think September. I think we're going to see them early and often.
Caleb Jackson was the guy who stole all the buzz in the scrimmage. Does he factor in early on?
I think early on against Florida State, you're going to see a heavy dose of Noah Cain, Josh Williams, if he's good to go, which he should be, and Logan Diggs, those veteran guys who, you don't want to go out there and throw a true freshman out there and have him miss a block or something. You want guys who are going to be assignment sound and take care of the ball and ease the freshman in. I wouldn't be surprised if you don't see Caleb Jackson until the second half of the Florida State game, if at all. I mean, do keep in mind there are 8 running backs on this team. It's going to take a while to get them, but I think they would ease him in a smaller role. But I think that going into this season, I've mentioned him a couple times on your show as probably having the most talent of any guy on the team. And he showed that explosive playmaking ability. If there's a guy who eventually runs away with the starting running back role, he would be my favorite to do so, simply because he's very explosive and a dynamic playmaker who can not only do his assignments but make some big plays for you. But he has had a couple practices where he had turnovers. I remember on Saturday before last, he had 2 turnovers in practice, which you're not going to want to see that in the fall. And, Brian Kelly mentioned you don't want to overreact. We are talking about 3 touches he had in the scrimmage.
Yeah.
3 very good touches, but 3 touches nonetheless. And Brian Kelly also pointed out how much of that was poor tackling. And the answer is probably a good amount.
Preston Guy from TigerBait.com, our guest here on the Hunt Palmer Show. What'd you make of Sage Ryan playing out at corner?
Interesting. And it sucks that he got a stinger that day. But it is interesting. He does have the speed to do it. I just worry about his size to do it. And there's a lot of corners on this team, so we'll see if that sticks or not. And I'm also wondering about how much practice time he had to miss after that stinger, if that changes that.
It's the secondary is fascinating because there's a lot of chess pieces, and I don't know where a lot of them go. Do you have a pretty good handle on what it looks like to start the game?
Yeah, if you're gonna roll with 2 corners at this point, you're gonna roll with Zy Alexander and Deuce Chestnut. You might rotate in Sage Ryan, but the true corners behind those guys, you're gonna be talking about. Ashton Stamps is probably your 3rd corner, and Matt House is so high on him.
Yeah.
Then LaTerrence Welsh and Denver Harris running as the 5th corner right now. At safety, you're going to see Major Burns and Greg Brooks. Those are your 2 senior safeties, probably the best safety duo in the SEC if I had to guess. But Andre Sam is a guy who's played so well during fall camp. They're gonna find a way to get him on the field somehow, some way. He's been a menace. So those will be the DBs you see the most of.
It appears to me, based on the quotes we've heard from Brian Kelly, that Aaron Anderson's going to return punts. Do you have a good feel for who might return kickoffs?
Hopefully Aaron Anderson as well, but we've seen a lot of Kyle Parker and Jalen Brown, the freshman back there. In practice, actually, Javen Nicholas was a guy back there, walk-on. So those are the guys I'd keep an eye out. Hopefully it's Aaron Anderson again, because I do think he's the most dynamic, best, playmaking returner. But don't be surprised if Jalen Brown or Kyle Parker are back there with him.
I can't tell you how excited I would be if they sent Jalen Brown back there. I know that in this day and age, most kickoffs are touchbacks, so it's not that important. But having a home run threat back there that needs one crease and nobody on the kickoff team can outrun them just makes me so happy, and LSU almost never does it. Almost.
Yeah, it's funny. You remember that streak of like 40 years without a kick return in Tiger Stadium. I mean, and as many athletes have come through here. It's an odd streak.
It is that. All right, now that when we talk next week, we'll be breaking down matchups and talking about Florida State, but now we can still go big picture a little bit a week out. Your thoughts on what this team looks like record-wise when it's all said and done?
Right now, I'm leaning toward 11-1. I think the absolute worst-case scenario for this team would be 9-3. Obviously, the two big games being Florida State and Alabama that you would drop, going over in those two, even though you have a chance to win both of them. And then maybe another SEC team that you're better than sneaks up on you, like Ole Miss is a team I could see doing that. But I tend to believe LSU takes care of business against a very manageable schedule for 10 games. And I think they split Florida State and Alabama. If you made me pick which one of those LSU is going to lose, I'll go Alabama. And I know on paper, this Alabama team looks like it's a 9-3 football team. But I'll believe it when I see it when it comes to Nick Saban. It's like one of those things. Oh, Tom Brady's the quarterback? Well, I'll believe that team stinks when he goes out there and it stinks. Same thing with Nick Saban in Alabama. And going to Tuscaloosa is rough, even though that series tends to favor the road team. I still think that's a tough place to win. So if you made me pick one loss, that's what I'm going with.
Well, good luck negotiating with the wife this weekend. Enjoy some football, and we'll break down a game next week. How's that?
All right, that sounds great, Hunt. See you then.
Preston Guy, TigerBait.com. He and Mike Scarborough do a great job over at Tiger Bait. You can check them out for your recruiting and, of course, team coverage. Preston's with us every single Friday at 1:15. It's I said a lot last year at this time that it felt like it was Georgia and Alabama and Ohio State, and that was kind of it, and everybody else was kind of left to be. And turns out Alabama did lose 2 games and didn't get in the playoff, and Georgia and Ohio State were in there, and the winner of that game was going to win the national championship. And Michigan crashed that party to an extent. So I wasn't 100% right, but I was pretty close. And I guess you could make the case that it's Georgia and everybody else at this point. Maybe you could throw Michigan in there if you want. But I do think there's a little bit more, at least on my part, I should say. I'm a little more curious. I'm curious about Alabama. I'm curious about Georgia's quarterback. I'm curious about Ohio State's quarterback. I'm curious about LSU and more intrigued with LSU right now than I was 12 months ago. Well, 12 months ago, I told you I thought they were 8-4, 7-5 team. I just thought that they weren't there, and I didn't know who the quarterback was and whatever. And I was wrong about that too. But it just seems a little more interesting to me this year. Maybe people feel differently. It's just the way that I see it sitting here before Labor Day as we get ready to embark on another college football season. I'm more fired up this year than I was last year. That is for certain. Speaking of college football, there's more talks. Ross Dellinger was on with Matt yesterday, and I've got some thoughts on this realignment deal and what it means in the big picture. So we'll do that next on the Hunt Palmer Show.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Tell you every day about Boudreaux's Electric. I tell you because it's storm season. It doesn't even matter if it's storm season because we get freezes down here every once in a while, and we certainly get afternoon thunder showers that knock the power out. And you just don't want that to happen. Boudreaux's Electrical can help you with that. They're family-owned and operated and have been for 40 years by Neil and Melissa Boudreaux. They're a certified Generac generator dealer, and not just that, they're a premier Generac dealer. They're in the top 3%. Just have them come out and give you that consultation and let them show you what they can do for you. Not every house is the same, obviously, and not every homeowner has the same needs. They can customize a generator for you based on the size of your home and what you need running. If you want the whole house operating, they can make that happen for you. If you just want to be sure that the AC runs and all your food's good in the fridge and freezer, they can make that happen as well. But you won't know unless you give them a call at the same phone number that they've had for 40 years. That phone number is 985-397-1562. 985-397-1562. And remember, all their Generac generators come with a free 10-year warranty. Free 10-year warranty on those Generac generators. Give them a call. It's Boudreaux's Electric.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Bayou Ford has $8,000 off MSRP, plus 1.9% financing on new 23 Ford F-150 XLT trucks, along with Bayou Ford's 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust Poll of the Day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, live at lunch, Hunt Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the Poll of the Day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared towards seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
Officially, it's a fridge full of beer. Unofficially, it's free AC. Coors Light, the official beer of everything unofficial.
Hi, I'm Brandon Landry, founder and CEO of Walker.
Hi, my name is Dr. Craig Green.
This is Ryan Terrio with HUDCORoofing.com.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. No matter how big your commercial roofing job, HUDCO can help.
My patients come to me because they trust that I can get the job done at a high level. Ryan Terrio and Richard Tilley have the same level of trust when it comes to roofing.
If you have a roofing issue, call HUDCO Roofing.
Give us a call, 364-1007, and we'll come to your house and give you a free inspection.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $12,000 off MSRP on new 23 Ram 1500 trucks, all with Bayou's 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644.
On Monday's OTB, we're going to recap week 0 of college football. We'll also break down the biggest takeaways from the Saints' final preseason game. Off the Bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Thanks to Preston Guy for jumping aboard. Talking a little LSU football on this Friday show presented by Cork's Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp. I'm gonna give you my Vanderbilt pick later in this segment. So just hold on to your butts because it's coming in, and I know how fired up you are to get that Vandy pick. I got to put it on the record. Look, we're gonna do a season-long SEC pick'em. It's got to be on the record. So we'll do that at the end of this segment. But I want to spend the majority of this segment talking about the ACC and its pursuit of 3 new members. And there are always layers to these discussions and these reports, and you consider what it means for the university or universities involved, and you consider what it means for the conference and the conferences involved. And in this case, the Pac-12 doesn't really exist, so it's only conference involved. But the report that Pete Thamel had at ESPN and that Ross Dellinger had over at Yahoo is that the ACC is again seriously considering the potential additions of Stanford, Cal, and SMU. And when I look at this, I say, okay, does this make sense for Stanford and Cal? Sure. They're not in a conference. The ACC is a conference with some real name brands. Florida State, Clemson, Miami on the football side. You understand what Duke and North Carolina are on the basketball side. And it's a real league. Is it a great one in football? It's not. Is that the most important thing? Yes. But it makes sense for Stanford and Cal. Does it make sense for SMU? Well, joining the ACC is a no-brainer if you're SMU, a school that was once a huge part of the national football landscape. And we know, of course, what happened then. But for SMU to be invited to the ACC, well, that's fantastic. Does it make sense for the ACC? In my opinion, it does not. I don't know what Stanford, Cal, and SMU bring you. There just are not very many folks interested in Stanford athletics. The athletic program as a whole is phenomenal. They're incredible at women's golf. They're fantastic at men's golf. This guy named Woods used to play there. He was pretty good. They're probably good at equestrian and croquet, and they're probably great at volleyball, even though I'm not going to look it up. They're always winning that Director's Cup. But the only thing that matters here is basically football television revenue. And Stanford doesn't bring you a passionate fan base. I don't think there is a Cal fan. I don't think there's one. You would walk around that campus, I'm pretty confident nobody even knows they have a football team. Have you looked at what Cal's been in football? 4 wins last year, 5 the year before that. Then the COVID year, they went 1-3. Won 8 games in 2019. 7 the year before that, 5 wins, 5 wins, 8 wins, 5 wins, 1 win, 3 wins. They win 5 way more than they win 8. Nobody goes. And if you were listening to Ross Dellinger on Matt's show yesterday, he said they've got the largest athletic debt in the country. And the majority of that is in their stadium. There's nothing attractive to me about Cal Bears athletics. Nothing. They probably have nice weather in Berkeley. I've never been. But no one cares. They just about folded baseball a couple years ago. Not that that's a revenue driver at all. It's a revenue loser. But no one cares. And SMU's a tiny little school that doesn't have a rabid interest. If you didn't go to SMU, you don't pull for SMU. So to me, the ACC, yeah, you're adding 2 different time zones, I guess. You got a Central Time Zone team and a couple Pacific Coast Time Zone, but nobody wants to watch them. You can't honestly tell me you're going to go to Fox or ESPN or Apple or Amazon or whoever's going to do your next deal and say, well, you got to give us more money. We got Cal. We got SMU. What year is it? Is it 1989? Or you have SMU? Who cares? So I don't get it at all from the ACC's perspective. And then you add in the next layer, which is the finances of joining the ACC. And these 3 schools have agreed basically to jump in without getting paid. SMU is reportedly conceding their first 7 years of media rights payments for admission to the ACC. Now, they're catching about $8 million a year right now, and SMU has a massive endowment, especially relative to the size of that school. There are a lot of really, really rich SMU alums. I actually played golf with one, incidentally, when we were down at the beach this past summer. Like, he was like, yeah, my grandfather was in the oil and gas business, and he was the president of SMU. I was like, oh, really? What do you do? He's like, well, I ran CC's Pizza. It's like, okay. But they've got a lot. They can cut checks for $8 million a year if you let them go play in the ACC. And to me, it makes all the sense in the world for SMU to eat 7 years to get into the Atlantic Coast Conference and try to saddle yourself in some way, shape, or form with Clemson and Florida State and Miami and Duke and North Carolina and Louisville and whoever. Like, that makes sense to me. It makes sense for me for them to jump out of that, jump out of Tulane and whoever else is in that league and go with them. Like, that makes sense. And if you've got the money, you can do it. But for Cal, who's in massive debt and has an alumni base that I don't think gives a rip about football, I don't get how they make that work. And Stanford's, of course, got $1 bajillion, but this is forced. And with the great things that could come with these Power 2 or 3 conferences where you get no LSU Rice and no LSU North Texas, and you get LSU Michigan or LSU Penn State or LSU Clemson instead, and you crunch this thing and it looks more like the NFL and the competition's much better. The byproduct of this is these weird, forced marriages that on most levels make no sense at all. Geographically, this makes no sense. Financially, this makes very little sense. In terms of the media rights, it makes very little sense. I don't really get it. It's just the ACC who realizes they've locked themselves in a grant of rights deal that's going through 2037 that nobody can get out of and that is imprisoning the members, trying to do something to make it look positive. And I'm sorry, adding Cal and SMU is not positive. So I just don't get it. And what's the point I make every time I have these discussions? In the end, none of these reports or stories are going to affect LSU because you've got a golden parachute, you're locked in, so we don't have to worry too much about it. So, consequently, we won't. Friday show is brought to you by Cork's Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp. Badinka Brothers, been with Kuyans for over a decade across the river in Port Allen. Now they brought you Cork's here in Baton Rouge. It's delicious fried shrimp, delicious fried seafood. And if you've got a tailgate that you're cranking up for the Grambling game in a couple of weeks, or even for high school jamborees tonight or moving forward, they can handle your catering orders. They can do huge trays of catfish and shrimp and French fries and hush puppies and honey butter rolls and all the sauces, tartar sauce, cocktail sauce, ketchup, Cork sauce, which is my favorite. It's fantastic. So they can do all your tailoring. And if you just want to feed the office, they can do that as well. One of my favorite things that they have, maybe you got a Hester-sized family. You got 1 million mouths to feed. How about the big haul? Feeds 4, 5, 6 people, 10 strips of crispy fried catfish, 30 golden fried shrimp, a 16-ounce coleslaw, large box of fries, 8 hush puppies, 5 rolls. Feed the whole family for under $50 with the big haul there at Corks. Check out the website, corksfishandshrimp.com. I told you I was going to give you a Vanderbilt Hawaii pick. Let's do it.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
One Bath and Closets, onebathandclosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team been in the game for 30 years, redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. Look, it's not a great time to move for a lot of folks. Interest rate, if you're locked into a great one and don't really want to take on a new mortgage with a different interest rate, but you feel like you can do better, how about a new bathroom and a new closet? And the best part, David Duvall and his team will give you 10% off if you combo those two renovations with one bath and closets. Get that new bathroom. It just takes one phone call. They handle the whole thing. Don't have to call 4 contractors. They do it all on the closet side. They can customize a closet to your exact needs. They'll know exactly how many pair of shoes you got, exactly how much hanging space you need, what's got to be done on your floor. They got cubbies, racks, lights, all kinds of things they can do for you at One Bath and Closet. But you won't know unless you go to onebathandclosets.com, request that free consultation, have David Duvall and his team come out and check it out. You can check out the testimonials on their website, look at pictures of their great work, and, of course, request that free consultation. Onebathandclosets.com, onebathandclosets.com.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge. Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust Poll of the Day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, live at lunch, Hunt Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the Poll of the Day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Make this summer your backyard party year with Chris's Specialty Foods. Wings, burgers, brisket, steak, and boudin, plus great Cajun side dishes. We do all the prep, and you enjoy laughing with friends and family. Chris's Specialty Foods, Millerville, New Orleans, Prairieville, and Frisco.
Everybody loves Chris's authentic Cajun meat.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all of that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Bayou Ford has $8,000 off MSRP, plus 1.9% financing on new 23 Ford F-150 XLT trucks, along with Bayou Ford's $1 million.
Charles Hanniger, join us for the Friday edition of Live at Lunch from Ruffino's on Highland Road. Troy Macker and Bruce Marshall with us, and we're ready for Week 0. Football is finally here. Live at Lunch, 11 a.m. weekdays on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
All right, I know you've all been waiting for it. You've been sitting there. I bet a lot of you had reached your destination in your car, but stayed through the commercial break to get my pick on Vanderbilt Hawaii. And look, I appreciate that. That means a lot to me, and means that you're certainly a devoted listener and understand how good I am at placing wagers on SEC football. So good on you, and you'll be rewarded right now with my pick on Vanderbilt and Hawaii. It's a night game in a construction zone in Nashville. Should be played in front of about 15,000 people. Should be raucous over there. It'll be louder on Broadway in one of the honky tonks than it will be at the stadium for Vanderbilt and Hawaii. But they are going to play. It's a 17-point number, and I will take Vanderbilt to cover the spread. Let me give you all the reasons I have for that. Vanderbilt beat Florida last year, and somebody else, they beat like Kentucky or something. I think that's right. Kentucky, maybe. Hawaii, I'm just going to assume stinks because they usually stink. And Vanderbilt has like some SEC guys, and Hawaii does not. And that's about all I got. I don't know anything about Vanderbilt or Hawaii. Give me Vanderbilt. I'll lay the 17. They ought to score 50 on them. It's Hawaii. Just beat them by a lot. That's my pick on Vanderbilt and Hawaii. I wanted to end the hour with just I had a thought yesterday as I was watching the Cubs game. And this ties into LSU and college football if you were going to immediately turn the radio because I'm talking about Major League Baseball. I'm not directly. I'm talking about college football by using Major League Baseball as an example. There are so many who are disappointed in the expanded NCAA football playoff and think that it cheapens the regular season. And I just don't agree. And here's why. Because as I look at Major League Baseball right now, I look at what they've done with the postseason. And it used to be the 3 division winners and 1 wild card. So you had 4 teams. And now they decided, you know what? We're going to add 3 wild card teams. And then we're going to give a bye to the top 2 teams in the league. So in the National League, the top 2 finishers will get a bye. And then teams 3 through 6, 3, 4, 5, 6, will play to move into the 5-game series. And what that has done is allow more teams to play meaningful baseball in September. In the National League, you have the 3 division leaders. Then you have the Phillies, Cubs, Diamondbacks, Giants, Reds, and Marlins, who are all within 2 games of the wild card. That means there are 9 teams within 2 games. If you add the Padres in at 6 games out, which you probably shouldn't, it could be 10 teams playing meaningful baseball. And then you could counter and you'd say, well, wait a second. Like, why should the Marlins be rewarded for going 65 and 63? Like, they've lost too much, and you're trying to heap them in with a Braves team that's won 1 billion games. And why should they all make the playoffs? Like, you should reward excellence during the regular season. Like you should in college football. You should have to win 11 games or 12 games to get into the playoffs. That's what it should be. And I would counter, and I would say, no, I don't think that's the most interesting way to do it. I don't think it's interesting to have all but 6 teams eliminated after Halloween. I don't think all but 6 teams should be eliminated on November 15th. Let's let everyone try to play some more meaningful ball. And say, well, what about the teams? What about the Iron Bowl when they're both undefeated and how great that is that one team is going to get to play its way into a playoff and the other team, because they lose that huge game, it's, wait a second. We are rewarding the top of the food chain. When you expand the playoffs, you do get a bye in the first round. That's huge. Like you do reward the Braves for winning a bajillion games and you don't have to play in the first round. So those teams at the top are still having to fight to stay at the top late in the season. You can't just take a game off because you've got to get in the top 2 to get that bye. The same way that teams at the top of the MLB standings have got to play. So you reward the top just like you always have, but you allow more teams the opportunity to compete in meaningful games late. Have the Cubs been incredible this year? No, they haven't. But they're right there in the playoffs right now. Have the Reds been incredible this year? No, they haven't. But they're a half game out. It just, to me, makes more teams play interesting games. I don't think you've cheapened the regular season by adding more playoff teams. I don't think it's a participation trophy for everyone. I think the top of the sport still has to compete for all the advantages you can have for being at the top. And I think the middle and upper half of the sport still has an opportunity, if they play well at the end of their season, they become the best they can be, to compete for championships. That, to me, is more interesting in sports. It's more interesting in Major League Baseball. It's going to be more interesting in college football. It's more interesting in college basketball. What if we only let 6 teams into the NCAA basketball tournament? That would stink. I like trying to play your way onto the bubble and having an opportunity to make a push late. We know what college baseball has been with Ole Miss 2 years ago and Coastal Carolina. I think that's good. And can I listen to an argument that Coastal Carolina winning a national championship in a year where there were probably 40 better teams is not a good way to do it? I would listen to that, but I'd say, you know what? I like it this way. I'm pumped up for September in Major League Baseball, and I'm going to be pumped up when they expand that playoff. Just my thoughts on it. Friday show is brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp. Get on by Corks on Government Street. Get some delicious fried catfish, incredible jumbo Gulf fried shrimp. Love telling you about Corks on our Friday shows. Hour 2 is coming at you. We're talking Ole Miss at the top of the hour with Michael Katz. We're talking Arkansas at 2:15 with Andrew Hutcherson. So come back for some SEC football after Sports Center. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
The importance of doing this fortified program and offering it to people down here is, number one, the only real chance you're going to get to do this is when you put on a new roof or build new. And through companies like HUDCO, who's kind of leading the way in this thing, it's going to offer the customers a huge advantage in the insurance market and the price of their insurance.
You know, we're not looking to make a fortune off fortifying. We're trying to give you a better product than our competitor at the moment. I'm trying to do something that he can. I'm trying to give you something better. So a lot of these insurance shops, you're getting a re-roof, you're only paying your deductible. Let's sit down and talk about the fortified and let's see what it does to your insurance premium. You're getting a steal.
Yeah.
You're getting a brand new roof and a fortified certificate for your deductible, essentially. And I think we're rocking and rolling.
Hi, I'm Brandon Landry, founder and CEO of Walker.
Hi, my name is Dr. Craig Green.
This is Ryan Terrio with HUDCORoofing.com.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. No matter how big your commercial roofing job, HUDCO can help.
My patients come to me because they trust that I can get the job done at a high level. Ryan Terrio and Richard Tilley have the same level of trust when it comes to roofing.
If you have a roofing issue, call HUDCO Roofing.
Give us a call, 364-1007, and we'll come to your house and give you a free inspection.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all of that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust Poll of the Day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, live at lunch on Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the Poll of the Day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
This is SportsCenter.
I'm Doug Brown. The new Women's World Cup champions from Spain will not play again for their country unless Federation President Luis Rubiales either resigns or is fired. Rubiales is under fire for his behavior after the team beat England Sunday for the title. The NFL preseason wraps up this weekend. The Jets play the Giants at the Meadowlands tomorrow night. Aaron Rodgers will play for the Jets. ESPN's Dan Graziano.
They have reached a point where they feel like what they need going into the season is some real game action with him at quarterback and all his guys around him listening to, his voice in the huddle.
Dan Graziano, this will be Rodgers' first preseason action since 2018. There are 3 games tonight. ESPN's Jeremy Fowler reports Titans quarterback Will Levis not expected to play against the Patriots. Levis has a thigh injury. Second round of the PGA Tour Championship in Atlanta. Scotty Scheffler, Colin Morikawa, Victor Hovland share the lead at 11 under. Coverage of feature groups and holes on ESPN+.
How would you love a chance to save some money on car insurance? Geico can help. Switch today and see all the ways you could save with great rates and discounts. It's easy. Simply go to geico.com to get a rate quote and get started seeing how much you could save.
Now, Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Holding down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour number 2, final hour of the week. Hunt Palmer Show. Friday show is brought to you by Cork's Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp. We're going to do a little two-step along the SEC West here over the next 30 minutes. We'll chat with Andrew Hutcherson from Northwest Arkansas, covering the Arkansas Razorbacks, coming up in 15 minutes. I'm going to talk a little Ole Miss football here in the first segment. I have alluded to this, and we'll expound on it more next week. I am a little bit down on Ole Miss over the last 2 weeks as I've kind of looked at the league, done a little more in-depth research than I was doing back in July with like media days. Was Jackson Dart great last year? Do I trust that the defense is going to be there? Or are they the team that it kind of fell apart when they started playing real football teams last year? I'm curious. I trust Lane Kiffin implicitly calling plays. I think he is brilliant in that respect, but he's been there for a couple of years, and it's not like they're beating the doors down or anything. So let's talk some Ole Miss football with Michael Katz from the Northeast Mississippi Daily Journal. They're in Tupelo. Michael, thanks for your time. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing quite well. I've kind of asked this same question to all of the guests I've had on from opposing SEC beats, and kind of said, what are the vibes around the program as we enter? Most of the time, this time of year, things are very, very optimistic, but give me just a general assessment of where things are in Oxford now that Lane Kiffin to Auburn is dead, and it seems like he's kind of there to dig his heels in a little bit.
I think that there's optimism, and that this program is in a good place, especially compared to where it was the couple years before Lane got there. The recruiting has ticked up. They're winning those in-state battles of getting big recruits. They're getting 4- and 5-star guys again. That's really big. I know the transfer portal has been something that Lane has harped on, but I think he understands that the best way to build a program is still through traditional recruiting, and you got to get the best players to do that. And so I think they're doing a good job of mixing that. But I also think that there's a realistic look at that this schedule this year is just absolutely brutal. That even if this team is improved, and I think it's going to be a lot better than it was last year, that might not matter because their schedule is just, I know it's pretty much by every metric, it's in the top 5 most difficult in college football this year. I mean, when your second game is Tulane, and it just gets kind of worse from there. I think that this is going to be a good team, but it's just, it's the difference between a 7-win team and a 9-win or 10-win team. There's just not a lot of a margin for error with this team, but I do think that people are really happy with where this program is, that Lane is committed, and that they're putting in the resources with the Manning Center and hiring Pete Golding, which was not a cheap investment. Their NIL is ticking up and done a really nice job. There's optimism, but I think they understand this year is going to be really hard.
Has there been any earnest discussion, probably in spring or maybe early in fall camp, about why the bottom fell out after a 7-0 start last year and what they need to do to address that?
I think that, there were I think it was addressed when they hired Pete Golding. Yeah. I think that was a big part of it. I think over the last 7 games, they gave up 35 per game. They were getting gashed in the running game. They ran that 3-2-6, which sometimes is great, and when you play some teams that are physical, you can't stop the bleeding, and that's what kind of happened to them down the stretch. You had borderline air raid teams that were able to run the ball really successfully on them, and so getting Pete Golding, I know that Alabama fans have mixed opinions on him, but the track record is really good, and I think if nothing else, he brings in stability and a confidence in that defensive room, that they have a guy who knows what he's doing and has had success on the highest level. I do think, though, it would be foolish to not imagine that the whispers that were happening towards the end of the year, I imagine probably did play a little bit of a part. I remember it was Egg Bowl week, and that's when things really kind of hit the highest point of the Auburn. That's when it really it kind of sounded like it might go down, and Lane told us that he had to call a team meeting and address it. And these are 18 to 20 something year old kids. I think they're wondering what on earth is happening too, and they're probably getting asked by their friends and family, "What do you know? What's happening? What are you going to do if this happens?" All these sorts of things. I think it started Arkansas week was really when I think the rumors really kind of started. And don't get me wrong, they weren't playing great before that, but really the Arkansas, the state game, and of course the bowl game, they just looked really flat. And I have to imagine that those rumors probably play a little bit of a part. And you add that with the fact that defense is struggling, it's kind of a perfect storm of bad things.
Where's the strength of this defense now with Pete Golding calling the shots?
I think that the strength is probably the defensive line. They've got a lot of depth, and they've done that through the transfer portal for the most part. They've got experience. Pete Golding is going to run several different sort of sets and whatnot, but I don't think they're going to be generally a 3-man line. It sounds like they're going to do. I know some of the defensive ends I was talking to were talking about, learning how to play, a 4-man front, which is different from what they've done the last couple of years, but they're really deep there. They've picked up some nice pass rushers. That I think is going to be a strength in the secondary. I don't know if it's going to be a quote unquote strength, but I do think they've got really good experience. The question is, it's experience from a lot of other places. How quickly does that all meld together? At least with the defensive line, you've got a lot of guys who were here last year. They know what they're doing. The secondary, there's a lot of new faces and new pieces from all sorts of different levels of competition and conferences. It's going to be interesting to see how that goes.
We'll flip to offense. What do you know about quarterback? We know there's a transfer in, there's a returning starter, and then there's a guy from LSU.
Yeah, it was really funny. A couple days ago, we started seeing, the teams start tweeting out their, QB1 graphics, And Illinois tweeted out theirs with Luke Altmaier, and of course Luke Altmaier was here last year. He battled Jackson Dart for the starting job. And then I remember that we're never going to see a QB1 graphics because that's just not how things tend to go here. But it's Jackson took his lumps last year. There's no question. He was young. He was in an air raid at USC. There was a lot being thrown his way early. He has looked fantastic since the spring. He's just looked more comfortable, more confident. Really limiting the turnovers, which is where, as you know, against LSU, that's when things really started to break down. And Ole Miss had that lead, and then LSU took it, and Ole Miss was about to retake it, and he threw that pick in the end zone. And after that, that was pretty much it. Ole Miss had no chance after that. They were so deflated. And so he's done a really nice job of limiting the mistakes. He looks in charge of the offense. Now, of course, when you bring in Spencer Sanders, the guy who started, I think it's 41 games at Oklahoma State, was a first-team All-Big 12 guy, you can't imagine that he comes to a place for his last year to be a backup.
Yeah.
So, it's been a battle. He was a little bit banged up during the spring. He's healthy now, but, I think the plan, and of course it's hard to ever get inside a coach's head, but, you want to push Jackson, and if Jackson doesn't take well to it, you've got a guy who you feel really good about. But in a perfect world, Jackson, he did what he needed to do. He took the challenge, and he's gotten a lot better. So I've long been on the side that it's going to end up being Jackson Dart, just because I think he's done everything that they could have asked. And of course, Walker Howard, and you mentioned an LSU transfer, an LSU legacy. I think he was kind of in the race for a bit, but it's become pretty clear that he's not in the top two running. But I think they feel really good about him going forward because, Dart's eligible for the draft after this year. Spencer Sanders will be gone. There's going to be an opening there for somebody. So I think they feel really good about that room in general.
Mercer's a glorified scrimmage in week 1 next Saturday, and then you're at Tulane. And all due respect to Tulane, I don't think they're going to beat Ole Miss in that game either. And then you've got Georgia Tech, who I think stinks. So you got 3 games there. 2 of them look decent on paper, but I think Ole Miss handles business. Is it fair to say they just need to know who their quarterback is by the Alabama game, September 23rd, and then they've got LSU coming to town a week later? Is that fair to say?
There's a part of me that thinks that could be the case, but there's also a part of me, full disclosure, I'm a USC grad, and so I've seen Tulane do things to teams that I still lose sleep over. So, Tulane's good. I understand that, their top running back is gone, but they still got a quarterback. They're well coached. It's going to be there. It's early in the season. Weird things can happen. I think if there's question at quarterback in that game, I don't know if that's going to go the way that they need it to, because I think Tulane is good enough that they can win that game if things don't go well for Ole Miss. Lane hasn't loved switching guys in and out of games. He doesn't do the old Spurrier series to series, play to play kind of thing. When he has a guy for a game, he usually rolls with it until a half or whatever it is. That was kind of the case last year. Jackson started the first game. Luke Altmaier started the second game, played the first half, I think it was, against Central Arkansas, and it was pretty much Jackson after that. So he doesn't. I think he wants to give whoever it is the confidence that they're not going to be on a short leash, because I think that's the worst. I think he understands better than everybody. That's the worst thing you can do for a quarterback is have them looking over their shoulder. What if I make this? What if I make a bad play? What if I make a bad throw? What if I turn the ball over here? So I think that they probably need it kind of figured out by Tulane. I do think they will. I don't know. I'm not sure what the plan is, but I feel like by now they probably do know what the plan is, even if they haven't talked about it openly with us. You mentioned Georgia Tech. I don't think that's going to be. I think they're going to be better, but I don't think that's going to be much of a game. But the first and the third game, those are like you said, glorified scrimmages. It's not going to take much for Ole Miss to win those games. But that Tulane game, I think, if things aren't figured out, I think it could get interesting. And of course, you better have it figured out by Alabama because going into Tuscaloosa did not go well for Ole Miss last time.
We appreciate the time, Michael. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the football this fall.
Absolutely. Appreciate you.
He is Michael Katz, Ole Miss beat writer up there in Northeast Mississippi at the Daily Journal in Tupelo. We'll take a time out. When we come back, talk some Arkansas football with Andrew Hutcherson. That's next.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Snap into action this NFL season with FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook right now. New customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. It's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. If you've been thinking about adding FanDuel, there's no better time than now to get in on the action. They have so easy. There's a wide range of betting options, point spreads, player props, over-unders, and a lot more. So visit FanDuel.com/1045ESPN and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Must be 21 and present in Louisiana. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issues, knowledgeable bonus bet that expires 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. If you're someone who has a gambling problem, wants help, call 1-877-770-STOP.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Officially, it's a fridge full of beer. Unofficially, it's free AC. Coors Light, the official beer of everything unofficial.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
Oh, hey, what's up? It's Big D and Bubba, 100.7 The Tiger Morning Show. We'd love for you to join us every weekday, 4 a.m. till 9 a.m.
Yeah, everything you want in a show. Country music. We got laughs. We got celebrity in-studio guests. We just need you.
Join us every weekday morning, 4 a.m. to 9 a.m., right where it all started.
That's right. Louisiana's country station, 100.7 The Tiger.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all of that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644.
Voisin, inviting you to join me, Coach Todd Black, and Coach Jimmy Roy as we kick off the 2023 Prep football season with a Jamboree edition of Louisiana Prep Scoreboard presented by Lake Urgent Care. Friday night from 10 to midnight, right here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Just talked Ole Miss Rebels with Michael Katz. We're going to head back to the Gems Firearms Hotline now. This is what I got Andrew Hutcherson, as we always do when we want to talk Arkansas Razorbacks. Andrew, how are you?
I'm doing good. How about y'all?
Doing quite well. We're 1 weekend away from really getting into the action. I've said this many times over the week, but Vanderbilt in Hawaii is not gonna get me out of bed in the morning. I'm gonna go play golf and enjoy the weekend. Are you gonna be locked into football this weekend?
I'm going to do my best to watch some college football, but I have a 3-year-old and 1-month-old daughter, so they're going to also keep me preoccupied.
Oh, that's a full-time gig right there in itself. I just got the one, and I'm pawning them off on my mom all weekend so I can go play golf. So that's how things are going around here. I've asked every beat writer I've had over the last week kind of this at the top. Like, what's the energy around the Arkansas football program as they head into another year with Sam Pittman at the helm?
It's good. It's good. I mean, Sam Pittman, we talked to him yesterday, but the last time before that, last Saturday after the second scrimmage of camp, he came into the interview room and he was in a very, I'm trying to think of the right word, chipper mood. I mean, just very optimistic. You could tell he felt very confident about his team. He must have liked what he saw that day, and I think he thinks they're going to be pretty good. Now, you can be pretty good in the SEC West and only go 6-6, as we know. It's a brutal division. But I think he likes where they're at, and the vibes are good, and I think people are excited for the season to get underway next week.
I understand that. You've got a coach that had a really good start to his campaign, and, of course, a really, really good quarterback who we'll talk about here in a second. But what was the reason, outside of KJ Jefferson's injury, that Arkansas did lose 6 games last year?
Well, on top of KJ's injury, you also had a gajillion injuries in the secondary. I mean, at one point there were 7 different defensive backs out with injuries at the same time, and that is why Arkansas ranked dead last in the FBS in passing defense. I'm not going to sit here and tell you they would have been a good secondary if everybody had stayed healthy, but they definitely would have been much better. They had guys in there playing that had no business playing SEC football, to be quite honest. And so I think that was a major factor as well. But also, I mean, you can't downplay KJ's injury. Yeah. He is so important to this team. 2 of the games they lost, you can say if KJ Jefferson is healthy, they would have won. They would have beaten Liberty if he had played that game at 100% health. And if he had played against LSU, they probably would have had a really good chance to win that game too. So, and then who knows how the Mississippi State game that he missed would have played out if he had been, out there playing. So I really think that those really kind of had a major factor in it, because you look back, 4 of their 6 losses were by 3 or less points. I think they're by combined 9 points or something like that. Really close games that were kind of the difference between being a average season and a great season.
Yeah, 2-point loss to Texas A&M, a 2-point loss to Liberty, a 3-point loss to LSU, and a 2-point loss to Missouri. To illustrate your point, I thought when Sam Pittman hired his coordinators, and then after watching them for a couple of years, said, man, that's a really good set of coordinators that Arkansas has. We know that Kendall Briles and Barry Odom have both moved on. What can you tell us about the new Hog offense?
Well, as Dan Enos, it's a name Arkansas fans will remember from him being here under Brett Bielema, 2015 to 2017. That 2015 offense was a thing of beauty after some early struggles. By the end of the year, it was probably one of the better offenses in the country. They were humming with Brandon Allen and Alex Collins and some guys like that, Hunter Henry. So I think, knowing the kind of pieces they have on offense, with KJ Jefferson, Rocket Sanders, they think they got a pretty good group of tight ends and wide receivers. They're just kind of unproven, either in college or at the SEC level. So I think there's some optimism there. It's going to be different. It's not going to be the hurry up, no huddle that we saw with Kendall Briles. They're going to huddle some. KJ's going to go under center some. So it's going to look different. You're going to see some 12 personnel with 2 tight ends out there. So it's going to look different, but I think there's optimism with the pieces that they have. It's kind of similar to when Dan Enos came in 2015. The offense wasn't great before he got here, but they had some really solid pieces, veteran pieces. It's a similar type setup with that this year. So I think there's reason to believe the offense should be good this year.
Look, when it's the fourth quarter in a close game in Tiger Stadium or in Arlington against A&M in September, you do what you have to do to win the game. But do you think right now, as we sit here in late August, that Danny Enos and Sam Pittman would say, can we can we lessen KJ's running load if we possibly can? Because he's a big, strong dude, but you get the wrong pop on his shoulder and you could get a repeat of last year.
I think it's still going to be part of the offense, but I think they're really preaching being smarter. We saw that a little bit in the bowl game, even with Kendall Briles still here. There were times in the bowl game where KJ was running down the sideline, and instead of lowering his shoulder and trying to truck a dude, he took it, went out of bounds to try to avoid the hit. Very smart type of running. I think we're going to see more of that this year. I think we're going to see some designed runs, but also you probably don't have to ask him to run as much because not only do you have Rocket, but you have A.J. Green, Rashad DeBinion, Dominique Johnson is back healthy. You've got a really, really deep group of running backs that should be able to handle a lot of that running load. I think they maybe try to reduce a little bit of the running, but you can't take it completely out because that's also why you're such a good offense is whenever you got to factor in KJ as a runner as well.
No doubt, and they were a great offense a couple of years ago because Traylon Burks was so difficult on the outside. I don't know that they kind of replaced him fully last year. It's very difficult to do. What about the pass catchers in this Arkansas offense? Who are the weapons?
Well, you don't have a Traylon Burks like they had 2 years ago. And last year it was kind of divided between pretty much basically two guys, Matt Landers and Jaden Hazelwood, who were good college wide receivers. And I think you're in a similar situation this year. You've got a couple of guys that are transfers from lower levels, a Division II transfer named Isaac Tesla, and an FCS transfer named Andrew Armstrong. I think those guys are going to start. Not sure who the third starter is going to be. I think it's going to be Isaiah Satania, a redshirt freshman who was a four-star recruit, heralded recruit, speedy guy, also runs track in college. So I think that's going to be kind of the starting group. But I think that Andrew Armstrong and Isaac Tesla, as long as they can adjust to the SEC, which they seem to have done pretty well. They were here in the spring. That helps a lot. You saw some early struggles from them in the spring, but now that it's we're through fall camp and everything, they look like they could be KJ's go-to guys. They're very athletic. I think Andrew Armstrong has been clocked at over 22 miles an hour, and Isaac Tesla has just got some crazy athleticism. Guys that really kind of were, I'd say, late bloomers, and that's why they ended up playing at smaller levels. So I think those are going to be the guys, and I think they're going to be good. I'm not going to say they're Traylon Burks or anything, but I think they could be very solid wide receivers for Arkansas, and especially in this offense. We saw in 2015, I keep bringing that up with Dan Enos, they had guys like Drew Morgan and trying to think of some other guys. But needless to say, the wide receivers on that team were not the NFL stars. They weren't the Hunter Henry at tight end or Alex Collins at running back or Brandon Allen at quarterback. They were just good college wide receivers, and that helped the offense. I think they've got a similar situation this year. Is very good college wide receivers. I just don't know if they're going to be, top 5 round, NFL draft picks or anything.
On the defensive side, Barry Odom, the coordinator, moves on to a head coaching position. And Drew Sanders, who was so good for Arkansas last year, moves on as well. What can we expect from the Hog defense, both coordinator perspective and then in terms of the strengths of their defense?
Travis Williams is the new defensive coordinator. He comes in from UCF. He's a much more aggressive play caller than, say, Barry Odom. Barry Odom was, 3-man front, drop 8, let the offense make mistakes. This is a more aggressive. We're going to go after the quarterback and try to make them make a mistake. They're going to be running a lot more 4-man front. I think the defensive line it may be one of the strengths of the team, and I don't know the last time I've been able to say that about an Arkansas football team. They've got a lot of depth, legitimate depth. I mean, Landon Jackson, transfer from LSU, he'll be in his second year. He's bulked up, looks the part. Another year removed from that ACL injury he suffered there while he was at LSU. You bring in Trajan Jeffcoat from Missouri. He's a former All-SEC performer back in 2020. Hasn't played up to that standard the last couple of years, but I think he's kind of refound his groove here at Arkansas. He's another guy. They brought in some guys to beef up the interior. You've got a guy coming back named Torian Carter at defensive tackle that missed all of last year with a torn ACL. I thought he was on the verge of a breakout year. He had an incredible spring last year before getting hurt. Very unfortunate. He's back and healthy. So, I mean, they've got guys. They could legitimately rotate 3 4-man fronts at units, I guess you could say. So I think the defensive line is going to be a strength. I've still got some questions in the secondary. They've got good pieces. I don't know if the depth is quite there. If they have any kind of injuries like they had last year, it might be an issue. But I think that it's the pieces are good. Some of them, like Jaheim Singletary, a former 5-star recruit, transferred in from Georgia. He just hasn't played a lot of college football yet, and I want to see him in a game before I'm like, okay, that guy's good. Because we know what Dwight McGlothern is, preseason All-SEC. Can he be that guy opposite of him at corner to shut down opposing receivers? That's kind of a question for me. But other than that, I mean, I think the defense is going to be better. But again, it's kind of a low bar to have to clear because they kind of struggled last year. Injuries are part of that, but also I think the system, change is going to have a factor in that as well.
He is Andrew Hutcherson, managing editor, Best of Arkansas Sports. Andrew, we'll catch up in a few weeks when the Hogs come to town.
Sounds good. Looking forward to it.
He is Andrew Hutcherson. Appreciate his time here on this Friday. Going to be weird, quite frankly, I think, for everyone involved when LSU and Arkansas play and it's 95 degrees outside. Like, when I think LSU Arkansas, I think, like, we got to have a pullover here. If you're in Arkansas, it might be in the 30s. But LSU and Arkansas are going to play September the 23rd in Tiger Stadium, and it'll be probably 95 degrees when the Hogs come to town. So it's a tough schedule for Arkansas, as it always is. They got BYU out of the conference. They're at LSU. They're at Alabama. They're at Florida. And they got some obviously tough home games with Mississippi State and with Auburn. And interesting game, as always, in Arlington with Texas A&M. That'll be the week after they come to Baton Rouge to play LSU. So I love their quarterback. I think KJ Jefferson's great. I love Rocket Sanders. I am skeptical of FCS transfers coming up and being your playmakers at wide receiver. And I'm skeptical of the defense because they were the worst pass defense in the country last year, and they've got to find a way to figure that. But if you're a little more aggressive and you got a good defensive front and you try to do it by getting to the quarterback, maybe that's a better way to go about it than trying to cover. We'll see. But that's our look at Arkansas. We appreciate Andrew for helping us out with that. All right, we'll take a timeout. We just got 30 minutes left on this Friday, presented by Corks, Hunt Palmer Show.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer. Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Hello, Samantha, dear, I hope you're feeling fine. And it won't be long until I'm with you all the time. But until then, I spend my money up right down on my last dime.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hi, I'm Brandon Landry, founder and CEO of Walker.
Hi, my name is Dr. Craig Green.
This is Ryan Terrio with HUDCORoofing.com.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. No matter how big your commercial roofing job, HUDCO can help.
My patients come to me because they trust that I can get the job done at a high level. Ryan Terrio and Richard Tilley have the same level of trust when it comes to roofing.
If you have a roofing issue, call Hutco Roofing.
Give us a call, 364-1007, and we'll come to your house and give you a free inspection.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
It's Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for a Football Friday edition of AFR, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar. Getting you ready for Week 0 in college football, and the right radio hours return 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
All right, The Athletic came out with a story. It was Chris Vanini and Bruce Feldman, college football coaching tiers. And there's nothing like earth-shattering here that I'm going to go nuts on, but I do have a couple of points of contention with them. They got Tier 1A as Nick Saban, and Tier 1B with Kirby Smart and Dabo Swinney. I don't want to be a total prisoner of the moment. I don't. And this thing's fluid and doesn't really matter anyway, but if you give me the choice of Kirby Smart or Dabo Swinney to run my program, I'm not going to have a hard time with that. I'm really not. And Dabo deserves credit. You win 2 national championships, play for a couple more. Okay, that's really impressive. That's deserves to be up towards the top. But I'm going to take Kirby, and I'm a little worried about Dabo in the era of the transfer portal and NIL. If he keeps kind of talking bad about that, I just don't know if the players are going to respond. But I'm not going to go nuts on that. Then he's got Tier 2 behind Saban, then Kirby, Dabo, and then Tier 2. Kind of a cop-out, by the way, 1 and 1A. They're tiers. Just go to 2 and then go to 3. But in Tier 2, after 1A and 1B, he's got Ryan Day at Ohio State. I don't have any problem with that. He's got Jimbo Fisher at A&M. Hold on. I don't know about that. Jim Harbaugh at Michigan. I'm right there with you. Brian Kelly at LSU. I think I'm right there with you. Lincoln Riley at USC. I'm right there with you. And Kyle Whittingham at Utah, and I'm probably right there with you. And then he's got Luke Fickell at Wisconsin. I think Luke Fickell's a good coach. I think what he's done has been very impressive. But I'm just probably not going to lump guys in with national championship coaches and Heisman Trophy winner coaches and Kyle Whittingham and Brian Kelly when you've done this against Central Florida, Navy, and East Carolina. Gonna need to see a few more skins on the wall. Right? I think Wisconsin did a great thing in hiring Luke Fickell. And I think that's a program that does have a ceiling on it, but that can have a really, really strong program, and has had a really, really strong program. And I'm not trying to denigrate Luke Fickell from 2023 to 2030 over the next 7 years. I'm just saying if you're going to put him in this tier, you've you got to do better than beating South Florida and Tulsa. Like, that's what he's been doing for 7 years. And he's had his opportunities, and they made the playoff, and he's done some things that not a lot of folks have done at that level, but I'm not ready to lump him into that level. Jimbo Fisher won a national championship. Ryan Day is a perennial playoff coach. Lincoln Riley has coached 3 Heisman Trophy winners and scores a bajillion points a game. Kyle Whittingham has built a power in the Pac-12 that consistently competes to win that conference. I'm just not going to lump Luke Fickell into that group. And I'll be honest, like, it's tough for me to squeeze Jimbo Fisher in there right now based on what we just saw. He had a better than average year 1 at A&M, and then in year 3, they had a really good year in the COVID year. But outside of that, it's been real mediocre to a disaster last year. So I think I'd probably be fine like bumping him down to tier 3 at this point. And that's got guys, I mean, Mac Brown's in tier 3, Mario Cristobal, Josh Heupel, Chip Kelly. Like, I'm like Lance Leopold at Kansas is in 3. Mark Rule at Nebraska is in tier 3. What separates Luke Fickell from Matt Rule? I'll say Mark Rule. Matt Rule. Like, Matt Rule went to some places where it was really hard to win and won. That's what Luke Fickell did. I think that's a little ambitious for there. When you look at guys that have an opportunity to move here, like, I think Josh Heupel's got upward mobility. This is a big year for Josh Heupel at Tennessee because after 6 games, we'll have a really good handle on how much of that was Hendon Hooker and Jalen Hyatt and how much of that was Josh Heupel. Now, they all had to come together to create that great offense. I'm not suggesting it was singularly one guy's fault or one guy's doing. It's Heupel creating the scheme and installing the program, and it's the players going to execute it. But Jalen Hyatt's having an incredible camp in year 1 in the NFL. I thought Hendon Hooker should have probably won the Heisman Trophy last year. Like, that was incredible. And if Joe Milton comes out guns blazing and they're dropping 50 on everybody through 6 or 7 games, I'll go, oh, they really got something in Heupel. They got a 5-star freshman quarterback who should be able to continue this for the next couple of years. Like, okay, I'm buying that. If Milton struggles and they're not great on defense, and then all of a sudden I might have to look up and go, oh, maybe they got a once-in-a-15-year quarterback there. I mean, I think Hendon Hooker could be that. I don't know that I sit here today adamantly on one side of the fence of like Heupel's going to be a star and, oh, that was just Hooker. Like, I'm kind of straddling it and leaning towards Heupel's probably pretty good because he scored points everywhere he's been. But again, this goes back to the Fickell point of like, I'm not going to give you all the credit in the world for what you did when you were at Central Florida. Because when you're beating Tulsa and South Florida and you're hammering Navy and Temple and Tulane, I'm not going to give that as much credence as I would if you score 50 on Bama like they did last year. So that's a guy with significant upward mobility. I think Sonny Dykes has upward mobility on this list out of tier 3 because of what they did last year. Can you prove that wasn't lightning in a bottle? I would lean heavy no on that. That's one I don't have to be on the fence. I don't think TCU will be great this year. I think they'll be average. They're in a mediocre league, and they'll probably win some games, but I would bet they'd win 8 before I bet they win 11. Matt Campbell's always on these lists. He's in tier 3. What do they win? Nothing? I realize Ames, Iowa is not exactly paradise, and it's not the greatest place to recruit to in the world. But, like, he always pops up. Big Ten job comes up. Matt Campbell, SEC job pops up. What about Matt Campbell? Well, no one hires Matt Campbell. And Matt Campbell's still in Ames, Iowa, and they still don't win very many games. Whatever. And then Mark Stoops is in that category. And I believe, and I've said this a few times now, that Mark Stoops missed his opportunity to jump. And Hester will fight me on it, and he's been more right than wrong the last few years on him. But I'm still not going to buy Kentucky. Now, they continue to catch a break here in that Florida's down. Because if Tennessee and Georgia and Florida ever got their skis on the ground, they'd flatten Kentucky. Kentucky feasted on Tennessee, can't get out of its own way for 15 years. Florida's kind of up and down, and they're not competing with Georgia. But when you get the East in a bit of a lull and you can beat up on Tennessee and you can beat Florida now, and when you know you're going to beat Vanderbilt and you don't have to worry about Missouri, and South Carolina's going through a coaching change, all of a sudden it's a little easier to win 9 games at Kentucky. Mississippi State's your crossover. And nobody suggested Kentucky was some powerhouse, but they had reached a level where you could say that maybe Mark Stoops could get another job, and he was mentioned for this job. I have no idea whether or not a phone call was ever placed in either direction about this job in Baton Rouge, but I think they got to the highest point they could get, bumped their head on the ceiling, and I think they're ticking back down, which is what they did last year with no offensive line, and I think this year they'll be fine, but they're not going to be very good. And I think Mark Stoops now is cemented in Lexington, which he's probably fine with. But I think that he does not have mobile ability on this board. I think he's got some backpedaling he may do. I think Kentucky's heading in the wrong direction. Just my thoughts on it. I'll give you my thoughts on all the SEC teams next week as we get into game week. Very much looking forward to that. But we've got one more segment to go, so let's knock that out and get on to the weekend. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Ochsner Health and MD Anderson Cancer Center have partnered to create Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center in southeastern Louisiana. This collaboration is so awesome for our state. It's going to provide patients in the state with access to cancer treatments that are among the most advanced in the nation. Ochsner is the first and only provider in Louisiana that's got a fully integrated cancer program based on MD Anderson's practice standards and treatment plans. They have access to MD Anderson's protocols and practice standards. They've got direct access to their specialists and researchers. And they're going to offer access to select clinical trials available to eligible patients in our region, which is fantastic because we know that cancer affects all of our lives in one way or another. That expert care is going to be offered in 7 locations across New Orleans, St. Tammany Parish, and Baton Rouge. And the best news is they're going to work together, Ochsner and MD Anderson, to certify additional sites in the future. If you'd like to learn more about Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center, I invite you to head over to ochsner.org. That is ochsner.org.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
It was a humid day, barefoot children play, looking for that summer shade. Time just slips away. Oh, Louisiana, some kind of hold on me. Like cypress stumps, your roots are planted deep inside of me.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Scooncha, fall in the air. Fall is right around the corner, which means fall fishing is, which means it's time for you to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service in a bunch of different ways. You want a custom stair job, you can have a ton of fun out there on the water, they can do that. What about a spot lock trolling motor? So you stay right where you need to in casting lines, or sonar that's let you see the fish under the water before you cast. All of your maintenance needs as well. For 38 years, they've been at it and will continue to do so. The Sherman family of front-to-back boat service.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644.
Voisin, inviting you to join me, Coach Todd Black and Coach Jimmy Roy, as we kick off the 2023 prep football season with a Jamboree edition of Louisiana Prep Scoreboard presented by Lake Urgent Care. Friday night from 10 to midnight, right here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
All right, a little housekeeping here before we leave for the weekend, and I get on I-49 with a 19-month-old. Please send thoughts and prayers if you would. Monday, the first Brian Kelly press luncheon of the season will begin. So our broadcasting and programming changes a little bit for Mondays in football season. OTB, same deal, 7 to 10. But when they're done at 10, Jimmy and Charlie will come on live at lunch at 10 o'clock. They will lead into the Brian Kelly press conference. We'll carry that live on our airwaves. And when that's done, they will come back on, react to it briefly, and then they'll hand the baton to me in my normal slot of 1 to 3. So OTB, Hunt Palmer Show, and AFR are all going to be as planned. Live at Lunch moves up an hour, and they'll go right into the Brian Kelly press luncheon. So be ready for that on Monday as we have finally made it to game week. Jacob Beck, take it or leave it.
All right, first one here. Australian Curtis Luck misread his tee time Thursday at the Corn Ferry Tour event in Columbus. He was 10 minutes late and got DQ'd. That's the caddy's fault. Take it or leave it.
I might take it. I'll take it. The player needs to know.
Yes.
The player usually knows. But if I'm the caddy, I'm going to know what the tee time is, and I'm going to make it happen. It turns out, allegedly, and I don't know if allegedly is the right word, but apparently he had a reserve caddy that week who was just there to, carry the bag, and he just misread the tee time, and he was on the range and ready to roll, and he started walking over, and he was 10 minutes late, and he's DQ'd. That's golf for you. You don't get to make it happen. Remember Rory for a Ryder Cup or something was late and didn't even get to warm up or something. But you gotta know when you're teeing off. Time zones can get you, whatever. You got to be there, and Curtis Luck was not there. So on to the next Corn Ferry event for the Aussie, as he didn't gotta get to your tee time.
I mean,
man.
If you don't have a regular caddy, how can I wouldn't be relying on a guy that I don't even know.
Right. No, I'm not saying it's 100%.
Right.
But the caddy is supposed to be in charge.
Yeah.
The other guy's thinking about some things. He's just warming up. He's getting loose. He's hitting balls. What are you doing? You're cleaning clubs. Check the tee time and make sure we get there on time.
Yeah. Big Ten is in talks of moving its conference championship to Las Vegas. Take it or leave it.
I'll take it. I mean, obviously, you've brought LA into the mix. That's a drivable distance for them. Indianapolis has had it forever. I'm a proponent of moving the SEC championship game around. I know that Indianapolis is really close to a lot of teams, and I don't think Purdue gets a very decided advantage in that game, being that it's in Indianapolis. I guess they did make it a couple of years ago, but or was that last year they went? They went last year before LSU played them. Wow, Good grief. I think it's just fine. I think moving it around is good. It's going to be on TV. People want to go to Vegas. It's not like you're trying to move it to, somewhere that stinks or is freezing cold. Vegas would be a good one. So I'm for that. I'll take it.
Jaden Daniels has the second lowest or highest odds, whichever you look at it, to win the Heisman at 10-1 behind favorite Caleb Williams at 15-4. Putting some cash on Daniels to win. Take it or leave it.
10-1. I'd probably leave it. I mean, you're putting $20 down to win 200. I mean, I'm not gonna need $200, but unless you're trying to really throw some cash down, you're not going to get a great return on that. So I would say probably not, even though I think there's a chance of it. We'll have a pretty good idea of that after next Sunday.
Yeah.
Because he really needs to play well in that game, and we'll talk about that game next week, obviously. But my contention is that LSU is going to have to score some points in that game. So we'll see. But that's not those returns aren't great. Some folks cashed on Burrow preseason.
Yep. He had great odds.
You're not going to get as good a number on Jaden Daniels at this point.
All right, Shohei Ohtani will reportedly continue to hit and DH for the Angels despite tearing his UCL earlier this week. This is a good idea. Take it or leave it.
I'll take it because he's healthy enough to do it, and he's now going into his free agent season as a hitter. Like, he's not a pitcher. So go hit 50 homers. Like, make them pay you to be the 50 homer guy. Because as we talked about yesterday, like, it's going to be the most expensive injury in the history of sports. You're now a hitter for a year and a half, so go be as good a hitter as you can be and bring that to the negotiating table. So I think it is a good deal. I mean, if it was something he could seriously injure worse, I would say no. But the thing's torn, like, go hit.
All right, last one here. Michigan will use 4 different assistant coaches for game day head coaching duties in each of the 3 games that Jim Harbaugh suspended. This proves what a joke this suspension is. Take it or leave it.
I mean, I'll take it. It is what we went through the games he's missing. None of them have a pulse. Michigan will win them all by 30. I do like Michigan this year. I know they've gotten beaten in the playoffs. They got embarrassed by Georgia, and they got beat by a pretty mediocre TCU team last year. But I think they're good, and I'll be buying them, even though he's not going to coach the first 3 games. I think they've got a good quarterback. They've got a physical group up front on both sides of the ball, and they've recruited well. I wouldn't want to hang out with Jim Harbaugh, but he can coach a football team, and they're going to be pretty salty. So I'll take that. That is take it or leave it here on this Friday. Friday show is brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp. Get on by Corks for dinner tonight. Get the big haul for the family. Under $50, feeds 4, 5, 6 people. Get on by Corks. It is in Government, Jefferson, and Foster. All right, that's it for us. Appreciate Preston Guy from Tiger Bay. Thanks to Michael Katz and Andrew Hutcherson, who jumped aboard to talk Ole Miss and Arkansas, respectively. I'm out of here, headed to Shreveport to go play some golf. Matt's about to drive you home on After Further Review. See you Monday. It's game week.
The world's leaders in obesity research, obesity medicine, and obesity science are right here.
We're doing something that no one's ever done or trying to answer a question that no one's ever asked before.